The rain hit the house so hard it sounded like the walls were breathing. Inside, Ryan's voice rose above everything. He said it plain, without shaking, like he had practiced it. He told his mother she was a burden. He told her they were done. Clara stood behind him with folded arms and a tight mouth. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Evelyn reached out with the same hands that once held his fevered head and wiped his small tears. The door opened. Cold air rushed in and found every weak place in her body. Then wood met wood and the lock clicked. It was over in one sound. She stepped into the rain with a thin shawl and a small cloth bag. The streetlights were halos in the downpour. Water bled down her face and turned warm for a second, where it mixed with tears. She walked without aim, like someone searching for a memory. Every step woke an old ache. Years of factory work sat in her knees. Nights of missed meals lived in her stomach. She passed the corner where Ryan learned to ride a bike. He had fallen once, twice, then looked at her with brave eyes and said he could try again. She smiled at that, but the smile cracked and fell away. The boy who used to try again had told her to go. The wind shoved her forward. There was nowhere else to stand. A crooked bench waited under a half-dead tree beside the empty park. The wood was cold and slick. She sat anyway. The shawl clung to her shoulders and did nothing. Cars hissed past on wet roads. Umbrellas moved like small black ships. No one looked at her for more than a breath. The bench creaked and the old tree rattled. She pressed her lips together and whispered to no one. I did not think it would end like this. In the next breath she wondered what ends really look like, and if some of them are only turns in a long road. The questions sat there, heavy and wet. Footsteps came through the grass, soft but sure. She didn't lift her head at first. She had learned that eyes could be more cruel than words. The steps stopped. A voice asked a simple thing. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She looked up. A young man stood in the rain with no umbrella. His jacket was thin. His hair stuck to his forehead. His face wore a quiet sadness, the kind that doesn't shout. He kept a little distance, like a person who knows how fear works. "It's cold," he said. "You'll get sick out here." She tried to smile, but her lips shook. "I have nowhere," she said. "My son." The words broke, and the rest drowned. The young man swallowed like something hurt inside him. "My mother died last year," he said, almost like an apology. "I couldn't help her at the end. If you come with me, I can at least help you." Rain pegged his shoulders. He didn't wipe it away. Trust is a tender thing, and hers had been broken an hour ago. But the way he spoke to her, like she was still someone's mother and not a problem, warmed a part of her the tea of a lifetime could not reach. She nodded once. He didn't reach for her bag. He let her carry it. He only walked beside her, close enough to be there, far enough not to press. They moved through streets that looked the same but felt different. He led her to an old building with a flickering light in the hallway. The lock on his door stuck for a second, then gave. Warmth met them, simple and honest. The room held a small table, 2 chairs, a narrow bed against the wall, and a shelf with a few books. The air had the faint smell of bread and soap. On the table sat a picture in a cheap frame. A woman smiled from it, with tired eyes and kind lines around her mouth. The young man set a kettle on the stove. He glanced at the photo and then at Evelyn. "I'm Adam," he said. "Tea?" She nodded and sat because her legs asked her to. Steam rose, curled, and disappeared. When the cup came to her hands, they shook against its heat. It felt like being held. She took one sip and felt her chest loosen. They spoke little. Silence lived with them like a third person who knew how to keep a secret. She told him her name. She told him the basics. She did not tell him the small humiliations. He did not ask. He told her his mother's name and that the cancer moved fast and left him with a flat he could afford and a room that felt too quiet. He did night shifts at a loading dock and grabbed day work when he could. Some days I talked to no one, he said, and then stopped like he had said too much. She nodded because she understood the ache of rooms that hold silence by the throat. When the tea was gone, he set another cup in front of her and pointed toward the small bed. Please, he said, rest. I'll take the floor. I'm used to it. She opened her mouth to argue and closed it. There are gifts you spoil by refusing. She lay down with her shawl over her. The bed hummed with the small heat of a good thing. Her eyes closed, then jumped open, because fear never sleeps first. She stared at the ceiling. In the half-dark, she saw Ryan at 7, bringing her a crumpled drawing of a house with 4 windows and a big sun. He had written, "For Mom," in large letters. She kept that paper for years, inside a cookbook, like a pressed flower. She had lost the book in a move. She still remembered the drawing, how wrong the windows were and how right the love felt. She let that memory choose her sleep. Morning filtered through the thin curtains in a pale square. The rain had stopped. The city listened. Adam moved quietly, making eggs in a small pan. The smell woke something in her. He set a plate in front of her and didn't sit until she took a bite. He ate, standing up, like a man in a hurry without a place to go. "I have to be at the dock by noon," he said. "If you want, I can show you the market before I go." She said yes, and the word felt like a step toward a road that wasn't closed. Outside, the world looked scrubbed clean and a little ashamed. They walked side by side. At the market, people moved fast, but fruit shone and bread steamed. Adam paid for a loaf with soft edges and a small bag of apples. "We can split these," he said, like a boy sharing candy. On the way back, an old woman selling flowers stopped them and pressed a white carnation into Evelyn's hand. "For luck," she said. "Kindness sometimes finds kindness and points." In the days that followed, a rhythm came like a shy animal. Adam left early and returned late. Evelyn cleaned the little flat, washed the dishes, mended a torn sleeve, and folded a worn t-shirt with care like something sacred. She told herself she was useful, and in the telling it became true. She simmered lentils on the stove with spices she still remembered how to use. When he came home, he looked surprised at a table that had 2 plates. Surprise turned into a smile, and the smile turned into something that didn't have to be named. He told her a story of a crate that split open and spilled shoes across concrete, like a small rain. She told him a story of a day when she and Ryan counted coins on the kitchen floor for school fees, and laughed because the numbers danced and made sense when they did it together. She left out the part where the last fee had emptied the fridge. Some stones you don't lift twice. On a Tuesday, the sink pipe coughed and gave up. Water trembled along the seam and fell one stubborn drop at a time. Adam looked at it with a worried brow and a phone in his hand. Evelyn rolled up her sleeves and turned off the valve. "Bring me the box with the screwdrivers," she said. He blinked. She lay on the floor without drama and tightened a loose ring to a whisper. The drip stopped. She wiped her hands on a towel and sat up slow. "Your mother teach you that?" he asked. "My life taught me that," she said, and saw the way that answer pleased him. On Friday, a neighbor with a soft face and loud laugh knocked and asked about the smell of bread. Evelyn handed her a warm slice and a paper napkin. The woman bit, closed her eyes, and made a small sound of thanks. Word moved along the hall like light sneaking under doors. A few days later, someone left a bag of rice by their mat. Another left a little jar of jam. People have a way of turning into a circle when someone takes the first step. Then the past found them. It always does. It waited until a sunny afternoon when the park looked harmless and the benches were dry. Evelyn and Adam walked home with a bag of groceries between them, light enough to share. A car slowed beside the curb. The window rolled down. Ryan sat behind the glass with a tight face. He stepped out and the air changed. He looked at the bag, at Adam, at his mother's calm shoulders. Shame lit his eyes and turned to anger, because that is what shame does when it has no place to sit. "So this is how it is," he said. "Living with some boy. Do you know what people are saying?" People had not said anything yet, but he needed them to. Evelyn felt the old panic rise, like she was falling and the floor had gone. Adam set the bag down. He did not move in front of her. He stood beside her, which is a different kind of protection. His voice held steady. "People will say a son left his mother in the rain," he said. "They will say a stranger brought her home." Ryan took a step closer. "You don't know our family. Stay out of this." The words sounded brave, but his eyes darted. A neighbor stopped across the street and pretended to check a phone. Another paused with a leash in hand. Dogs are good witnesses. Evelyn spoke before the fight could climb to a place where no one can climb down. "You closed a door, Ryan," she said, and the words came clean. "But not every door in the world belongs to you." He stared at her like he was meeting a person he had never known. His mouth worked around words that never formed. He got back in the car and drove away too fast. The bag waited on the curb where Adam had set it. He picked it up. His hand brushed hers. It was a small touch and a large relief. They walked home without talking. The sun kept shining like it didn't understand humans. That evening she ate slowly and thought about the shape of forgiveness. She did not find a neat answer. She found a quiet thought that forgiveness isn't a gift you give to a person who hurt you. Sometimes it is a blanket you put on your own shoulders so you can sleep. She slept better that night. Work grew heavy for Adam when a shipment came late. He took extra hours and arrived home with his shoulders set like stone. He still smiled when he saw the light on and her head bent over a book. "You should rest," she told him. "Sit," he told her, and they both did. He opened a small cloth bag and set a necklace on the table. It was plain, one thin chain, one small charm. "It was my mother's," he said. "I want you to wear it." "Only if you want to." She lifted it with 2 fingers like it might fly. The charm was shaped like a leaf. "Are you sure?" she asked. He nodded without looking away. "Someone should wear it who knows how to keep things alive." He fastened it around her neck. The chain lay cool against her skin. She felt the strange comfort of being trusted with a memory that belonged to someone else. Trust like that isn't light. The next week brought a sudden turn. On a wet morning, the stairwell floor shone with new polish. Evelyn's foot slid. Her hand grabbed air and found nothing. She fell and hit her shoulder hard. Pain shot through her like a flare. She lay still and watched the light bulb buzz. A door opened and a child shouted for his aunt. Adam arrived 2 minutes later with wild eyes. He crouched beside her, hands shaking in the careful way of someone who wants to lift without hurting. "I'm fine," she said through her teeth, which meant she was not. He carried her down the steps with a strength he did not know he had and into a taxi he could not afford. At the clinic, the nurse asked for forms and frowned at numbers. Adam put his card on the counter with a face that dared it to be empty. They waited on hard chairs where time dripped slow. An X-ray showed a crack, but no break. A sling hugged her arm and made everything awkward. On the way home, she watched his jaw work like he was chewing anger. "It was a mistake," she said. "Floors get slippery." "They shouldn't," he said. He wanted to fight something. He also wanted to cry. He did neither. When they reached the building, the manager hurried out with soft apologies and a mess of words about signs and workers. Adam listened with a straight face until the man ran out of breath. "Put the signs up next time," he said. "That's all." The manager nodded as if his head were loose. Being hurt changed the shape of their days. Evelyn could not stir the pot with her left hand the way she liked. Adam learned to chop, slowly, badly, then better. She pointed with her chin, and he laughed when he got it right. She napped in a chair with the sling like a white flag on her chest. He covered her with a blanket and said nothing about fear. If pain was a thief, care was a guard at the door. The neighbor with the loud laugh brought soup. The boy with the leash knocked shyly and offered to take out the trash. The hall turned into a soft net that held. Weeks later, the sling came off. She rolled her shoulder in small circles and felt the limits and the gifts. They walked outside in the late light because the doctor said movement was medicine. The air held that orange hour that makes a city look kinder than it is. A black car slowed near the curb again. Ryan stepped out and closed the door carefully, like he was trying not to wake an idea. His mouth didn't look so sure now. "Mom," he said, and the word landed without a place to sit. He looked at Adam and at the necklace. He looked at the way Evelyn stood straight. He started talking fast. He spoke about stress and bills, about how Clara had been worried and he had felt trapped, about how sometimes you push the wrong thing away because everything is too close. He said he had not slept. He said he did not know how to fix it. Words piled up and started to look smaller than the thing they tried to cover. Evelyn listened. The world around them held its breath. "I was cruel," he said at last, and the line sounded like the first true thing he had said in months. "I know it." Adam watched the cars pass. He didn't step in. It wasn't his part. Evelyn thought of the boy with the drawing, the teenager who slammed doors, the young man who broke her heart. She thought of the bench and the rain and the room where someone who owed her nothing made space. "I am not a burden," she said. "I never was." He nodded like a student who finally understood the question. "I want to make it right," he said. "I'll take you home." The idea looked neat, sitting in the air. It did not fit real life. Home had changed its shape. "I have a home," she said, and felt the truth of it settle. Ryan's eyes filled, and he didn't blink fast enough to hide it. He said he wanted to visit. He said he would help. He said he was sorry again. Sorry is a small word that sometimes grows if you water it day after day. She did not open her arms. She did not turn away. "We will see," she said. "You can come by tomorrow. Bring honesty, not excuses." He nodded, swallowed, and left the car idling too long. When he drove off, the street returned to itself. The next day he came with a box of groceries and a stack of apologies he tried not to use. He helped fix a loose hinge with a care that made him sweat. He asked Adam where to buy decent bread and listened to the answer like it mattered. He watched his mother show him how to fold a towel so it sits right on the shelf, an old trick with corners and patience. He did not rush. He burned the first pot of tea and made the second right. When he left, he took the trash out and didn't make a speech about it. Some mending looks like that. In the weeks that followed, life did not turn into a fairy tale. It turned into a life. Evelyn kept cooking too much and sending half of it with Adam to the dock for his friends. They started calling her mom as a joke and then not as a joke. Adam worked nights and some days, but made space for mornings when they could sit with toast and watch the light climb the wall. Ryan came by twice a week and sometimes 3 times. He brought small things that had weight, a bus pass, a warm sweater, his quiet while she talked. Clara came once and stood like a person at a door to a room she doesn't want to enter. She said hello and kept her eyes on the table. It was a beginning or it wasn't. Time would decide. One Sunday the market buzzed like a hive. The flower seller with soft hands pressed a yellow rose into Evelyn's palm and nodded toward Adam. "Your son?" she asked. Evelyn hesitated a half second and then said, "Yes." The word crossed a bridge and did not fall. Adam heard it and pretended he did not. His smile did something to his face that looked like healing. They bought bread. They walked home slowly, not because their legs were slow, but because the day asked them to. Summer came the way it always does, one warm day at a time. The half-dead tree near the bench grew a few brave leaves. Children ran circles around it and forgot to be sad. On an evening washed in gold, Adam took a photo of Evelyn on the very bench where rain had first found her alone. She held the carnation the flower seller had given months ago, now dry and careful in a small book. Behind her, the tree tried. The picture was a truth you could hold, a woman who had been thrown away, sitting upright in a world that had found a way to hold her. Sometimes at night, she touched the small leaf charm at her throat and spoke softly to a woman she had never met. "I am doing my best with your boy," she said. "He is good. He is tired. He is trying." Sometimes Adam, who did not believe in talking to the air, would still say in his head, "Thank you for sending her," and then fall asleep faster than usual. Ryan kept coming. He fixed a shelf. He took a bus with her to the clinic and did not look at his phone in the waiting room. He got a second job and didn't tell anyone for a week because he wanted it to be about change and not about credit. Clara stayed mostly quiet and then one day brought a casserole and left it without staying. Not every door opens at the same time. On the day the city held a small street fair, the 3 of them stood together near a stall selling sweet tea. Music from a tinny speaker tried to be cheerful and almost managed it. People moved around them without knowing the long story that had brought them to the same patch of shade. Ryan handed his mother a cup, careful not to spill. Adam took the bag from her wrist without asking, the easy way families share weight. Evelyn looked at the 2 men and saw no perfect picture, no neat bow. She saw effort and edges, and she saw a middle that was holding. That night, back in the small flat, she sat by the window while the city cooled. Lights flicked on in other homes, each with its own quiet, its own noise. She thought of endings and how some are only turns. She thought of blood and how it binds, and of kindness and how it chooses. She thought with a soft shock that she was loved in 2 directions now, by the son she had raised and by the son she had found. The thought made her sit very still because joy can be shy when it is real. If someone had asked her to name the theme of her life a few months before, she might have said loss. If someone asked her now, she would say something smaller and stronger, people. The ones who fail you and the ones who don't. The ones who shut doors and the ones who open them. The ones who leave you in the rain and the ones who bring you inside. She would say this with a steady voice and a small smile and a hand that knows how to fix a pipe. Before bed, she wrote 2 lines on a slip of paper and tucked it into the frame of Adam's mother's photo. She did not sign it because it did not need a name. The lines said, "Simple things save us. A warm room, a gentle voice, a door that opens." In the end, nothing grand happened. No parade, no headlines, no sudden wealth or punishment printed on a poster. What happened was better and harder. A man learned to be a son again. A boy learned to be a man by being a son to someone new. And a mother, thrown out into a storm, found a home that had room for weather, for seasons, for mistakes, for mending. People still walk past benches without seeing who sits on them. But not Adam, not Ryan, not Evelyn. When they pass the old tree, one of them always slows, glances up at the small brave leaves, and nods like you do at someone who kept going. And if the sky darkens and rain starts to fall, someone always says the same thing first: "Let's go inside." And the door, the one that matters, opens.